My name is Marcus Whitney. I'm founder and managing partner of Jumpstart Nova, which is the first Black healthcare venture fund in America. We're investing in Black founded and led healthcare companies across the country. And I'm also a founding partner of Jumpstart Health Investors, which is the underlying platform for that fund. Yeah, so my journey in Nashville started in Labor Day of 2000 when I moved here, and I was waiting tables at a couple different restaurants. Rio Bravo on West End, it's no longer there, and Le Peep in Belmead, which is still there. And was doing that 6.5 days a week, and just doing anything I could to take care of my family. I had one boy and one who was on the way. And I taught myself how to code over an 8-month period, and ended up getting my first programming job at a company called HealthStream that was based in Cummins Station. It's now over in Nashville Yards. Yeah, that was my transition into kind of the white-collar world, effectively. And for the last 20 years, have been on a journey from being a programmer to a venture capitalist. And that journey, kind of the consistent thing across that journey was innovation, creativity and innovation. Really loving technology, really loving the way the technology was changing the business world, how it was making things better for people, and continuing to find new ways to explore how I could be an important player in the innovation industry, effectively. So started in healthcare, made a divergence into digital marketing, probably most notably at a company called Emma. It's an email marketing company, and I was the 5th employee there and director of technology, and built out their entire initial software stack, and then hired much better people than myself, and ended up running that team for a couple of years. I think entrepreneurship is about seeing problems in the world and wanting to make them better, and then learning how to make them better in a capitalist system, right? So, there's an approach that's an activist approach, which is you protest and you march and you debate. Being an entrepreneur is about looking at problems and saying, okay, how can I create a solution to this problem that can be profitable? Basically, that's to me, that's entrepreneurship. And you can do that from within a company, or you can do that by starting a brand new company. You can do that from within the government. There's all sorts of ways to be entrepreneurial. I think there's lots of opportunities for entrepreneurship inside of the existing education system, right? But it's understanding the constraints of the economy and the constraints of capitalism, which basically come down to, is it profitable or not, right? If it's profitable, it can continue. If it's not profitable, it can't. And so being an entrepreneur is about problem solving, but within the context of capitalism, and making sure that your solution is profitable. Sure, yeah, so these are just things that I think if you're trying to be entrepreneurial, you need to try to embody, generally speaking. So hustler is effectively like hard work. There's no quick way to an entrepreneurial solution. I've never seen it work. I've been at this for well over a decade. Anybody who I know who's been successful has worked incredibly hard. That's like a consistent trait. Hacker is about being clever. It's about finding novel ways to get things done, non-obvious ways to get things done, thinking differently, thinking outside the box. It's really, really important because, the entrepreneurial world is also competitive. And so lots of people have thought about ways to solve the problem you're thinking about, probably, right? It's a matter of whether or not you're thinking about it in a unique, novel way that could be valuable far beyond the existing ways of thinking about the problem. And then hero is that in the beginning, it's going to be pretty lonely. When you set out to kind of solve a really, really big problem, most people are going to doubt you. And so you have to kind of be the hero of your own story, and you have to understand you can't look for external validation. You have to know it's a process, and you will develop personally on this journey of entrepreneurship. But it's not just about, oh, I'm the smartest person and I came up with this idea and I'm going to to work really hard, and everyone's just going to be on board. Even me having had enough verifiable success in this community, whenever I come up with something new, I have to prove myself all over again, because past performance may indicate potential in the future, but it doesn't guarantee future success, right? And so out of the box ideas to solve problems that people have not seen solved previously are going to be doubted, and you have to just get really used to that and be cool with being the hero in your own story. Yeah, so the problem I was trying to solve was that broadly in venture capital, which for anyone who doesn't understand, is the investing of money into privately held companies. So publicly held companies are on the stock market. We can all go on our apps on our phone and we can buy stocks in those companies. But privately held companies are not on the stock market. So you can't buy stocks in those companies. Venture capital is the way that you buy stocks in privately held companies. So when you look at the venture capital world, those companies are largely founded by a very specific demographic, which is white men. Pretty much every other demographic gets far less venture capital than that one demographic. And the challenge with that is that venture capital really creates, I would say, most of the most innovative companies in the world, and certainly in America. So you just think about Facebook, Apple, Google. I could sort of go on and on, right? They all were backed by venture capital, okay? And so Twitter, on and on. They all were backed by venture capital. But also, if you look at the founders of all those companies, they're all white men, right? And so the challenge is that these companies create enormous wealth. They are enormously influential, and they also sort of represent the best thinking that we have in capitalist society, and it's not equally distributed. And I don't think it should be equally distributed just for the sake of being equally distributed, because the capitalist markets are, they're pretty merit-based, right? It's like if you provide value, then you're going to win the dollars. But what's missing is we're missing the perspectives from all the other demographics, right? We're missing the perspectives from women. We're missing the perspectives from people of color. And that is challenging to us, because if you look at the world, we have a ton of problems out there right now. We clearly have not solved all the problems, and we really could do better to solve all these problems if we had more diversity in terms of presenting potential solutions. Venture capital is a big way that those solutions get presented. I specifically invest in healthcare companies, and healthcare has got a ton of problems. We really learned about those problems during the pandemic, right? And it is very, very unequal in terms of the distribution of capital. And so I wanted to try to solve that problem. Specifically focused on a demographic that I know a lot about, which are black founders. I am a black founder. I was already investing in companies that had black founders, and they were doing very well. But again, like I said, being an entrepreneur means that you have to have a solution that's going to be profitable, right? So this is not about being a nonprofit. It actually has to compete out there in the market. And so I basically went to the market of investors who invest in these venture capital businesses and said, look, I think that this is a very under-invested in group of founders. And I think they can perform incredibly well. And I think it's basically untapped market, right? I think that if we make a fund dedicated to investing in specifically black founders in the healthcare space, we're going to find some of the best founders out there, specifically because today they're not getting capital, right? If everything was equal and everyone was sort of getting access to capital, I wouldn't have had a case to make. But my case was there are definitely 20 great black founders out there today that are not getting funding, that we can be the ones to give them funding, and we can do really well as a result of that.